Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're taking a look at an aggro sword deck for Unlimited. I had moderate success with this deck. Overall was about 50-50 on my win streaks. Really difficult matchups against Shadow and Haven, mainly because of the healing. That doesn't mean you can't win, it just means it's a lot more difficult. So the matches today aren't going to be perfect or great, and this deck honestly I would not recommend playing if you are looking for wins. It was just something I thought I'd give a go. Some people requested some aggro sword. There's probably a better way to build this, but this is more reminiscent of some of the classic aggro swords that I'd worked on, so I thought why not give it a go and check it out. So we're going to get into it and go through. So these decks are usually designed to be reasonably fast, which usually is an advantage against a lot of these slower, bigger drop decks, but Shadow and Haven now tend to have so much healing with Lady of Grey and things like that that have to be dealt with that absorb too much of your damage and can make it really difficult for you to come back off. So that's why these sort of matchups can be super hard. Like I said, doesn't mean they're unwinnable, it just means they are a difficult matchup. Overall, your more positive matchups tend to be against Rune. Blood can also be a bit about 50-50 just because of the fact that they can deal with you quite quickly. So starting off early, going for low drops is always what I prioritize. I aim for everything in the 1 and 2 drop range over anything else. Especially since a lot of our 3-drop cards aren't 100% necessary. This is primarily based on simple storm damage, no complex effects. Just really simple go face and win sort of deck. And Prince Catacomb is reasonably fine. Again, as you can see, this grey is just a nightmare of a card to have to deal with, so it's definitely one that I don't like having to play against. And if I had have paid proper attention, I would have dealt with the grey now instead of just going face, but I mean, I just really went face for it. I couldn't be bothered trying to deal with this grey, otherwise it would have been fine. We do have Princess Juliet, Zeta and Albert, so we've got plenty of potential storm damage. It's just a matter of getting there before they can out-heal it, which unfortunately with these crazy Catacomb plays becomes very, very difficult. But we get a nice Centaur Vanguard, which kind of fills us out well. I mean, it gives us a full board of Storm, which we can go face with fairly quickly. That does set them 2-4. Even with their 3 heal, they do have to deal with this board. Unfortunately, a second Lady Grey is really bad. With the Evo, that is going to be 6 health, and that's really bad for us. It's a crazy heal, plus the reanimate is just nuts. Definitely a super strong card. Between that and Gremmery, I can definitely see why Unlimited Shadow is super powerful at the moment. You really can't fault that they're probably 2 of the biggest powerhouse cards to the deck. But we do pretty okay. I mean, we've got this Albert, that's going to be 5 damage. We've got a little bit of extra damage on board, which will probably go to kill off this Grey finally. And we do have the Zeta, which is going to be a pretty nice play. Is it the best play? Probably not. Is it a good play? Definitely. So our opponent really just throwing to this board now. They're definitely going to deal with this Albert because obviously they don't want to die. But our Zeta is going to be able to at least hit the 5-6, giving us a chance. And that actually gives us potential lethal. So as long as we don't see a heal or a ward, we can actually win this game. Quick Blader and Beatrix is exactly the 5 damage we needed. Of course, any decent 3-drop Storm would have done the job. Even 2-drop Storm probably would have been fine. But this would work out just as well. With no potential Evo, Grey isn't going to heal them, so this is going to close it out. Princess Juliet as well, giving us the lethal anyway. With how many storm damage we actually have, the odds of us getting lethal were going to be reasonably high, but this just worked out quite nicely in our favour. And with the next matchup being the self-damaging blood decks, they are usually fairly good because they deal a lot of damage with Dark V Spat. I do actually have one lined up that I plan on covering soon, so hopefully you guys can enjoy that. We are covering a lot of Unlimited decks this month, mainly because rotation decks, we've pretty much gone through everything that could be in rotation that's decent, outside of Forest, which I just don't have the cards for, and probably Sword, which I've covered a couple of different Sword variants of a cheaper variety, but Unlimited's just got a lot more interesting decks right now that I can look at and have a go of and revive some old decks, so I thought why not we cover all these. Plus some people were requesting more Unlimited videos, so why not. So we have to go face fairly well here. I mean, 3 damage on turn 2 is pretty respectable. Plus, of course, the extra little bit of damage we get in early with the flower bed pinging themselves. So we pretty much just go face. We're not worried about Vera right now. It's not an Evo turn, and they've still got a turn to deal with it, and we've got the cards to do so. Demonic Ram, though, a little bit of a problem. Any kind of healing is difficult. This is the only reason Blood becomes a little bit of a pain in that matchup. If they have a decent Demonic Ram, it can be very hard to actually win. And I have to deal with this Demonic Ram immediately. So, unfortunately, I couldn't use the Palace Fencer to its full effect. Again, another little bit of a disappointment. I would have loved to have used that to its full effect and just won the game there, but obviously that wasn't going to be the case. And a second Vera, which, considering the first one was played early, isn't a surprise. So they are just going to fully pump out this right now and go face. I mean, who wouldn't? This deck, unfortunately, doesn't really run any way to deal with Vera outside of Beatrix, which is a little late. So the only real advantage is to just try and develop a board with something like Hope Strategist, wait out the Vera, and then pretty much play off that, as I really couldn't come up with any other strategy here. Luckily for us, this isn't too bad a situation right now. We've definitely been in tighter squeezes. So we're looking at the Aldor's Command being quite a big play. We've also got the Palace Fencer, which isn't too bad either. But the Command is just that little bit better. We're going to be able to leave them at 1 health, which means they can't play a lot of their self-damage cards. They are on turn 6, which means they really would need a Vera or a Mask of Black Death to really take advantage of. Demonic Ram isn't a bad option, but it's not really going to help yet. But that will definitely work out. Perfect. I mean, they pretty much got the ideal hand there. Unfortunately for them, though, they do have to deal with this entire board. We, on the other hand, have to deal with Demonic Ram, which is definitely not a fun one to have to do. So we should still be out of range of a Dark Feast Bat, just virtue of what we have. I do decide to commit the extra Palace Fencer to this board, so I have 4 damage. As I don't want to risk losing just because I didn't play enough followers the turn I needed them. So they're really pumping this out now. But looks like they didn't find any options that were going to help them, so thanks for the win, I guess. And for the last match, is probably one of the hardest matches I've had to play against with this deck. Haven is an absolute nightmare, just because of the pure healing they have, both in Summit and in Tenko. They run quite solid healing options, and that really makes this deck hard to use, especially if they ward up. That can also be an extreme case of difficulty for this deck to overcome, as big bodies tend to be the bane of my existence running an aggro sword deck, so it's a little disappointing. But we have got the Quick Blader, so it's a solid turn 1 play. We're going to get that little bit of damage in. We can follow up immediately with a Palace Fencer, which should work out pretty nicely. Jeweled Priestess isn't really the card I like, but a Palace Fencer will do the job. We also got the Princess Juliet, another quite nice card, so turn 3 might actually be pretty reasonable. So they're probably going to use one of these to kill a card here. I mean, if it was me, that's the way I would go about it. We do end up with the Perseus, so I do decide to play it out and go for the centaur play, mainly just stocking our board up with some more followers. The wider we can go, the earlier, the better, especially considering we aren't going to see a Boldy come down to wipe this. Although we did see the Star Torrent, so that's definitely a card that you don't expect in normal Haven decks, so I would say they're leaning towards a potential Seraph win condition, which gives us a little bit of an advantage. So we're going to be able to go for the 4 damage. We're sitting pretty comfortably now. Jeweled Priestess, though, again, playing so many of those is a pretty big difficulty, as they are going to get a little bit of healing out of the one they've got on board, and they're going to get some nice draws the following turn. So we've really got to put some pressure down and just slam the Despair Messenger to the board with an Evo point, because we do have a second one as an immediate follow-up. Plus they have a quite nice body to deal with, so even with a couple of heals, it's not going to be too devastating. Gem Priestess, Princess, sorry, is going to slow us down quite a bit. It's one of the few cards that actually disappoints me for this matchup, as I am basically forced to use Zeta as my only decent removal option. We do end up with the Quick Blader, though, which gives us some decent potential. Especially with the Undying Blue there, we've got a decent chance of Beatrix just to kind of kill this out. as they do have to heal up quite a bit. Double White Fang Tankle though should take them out of range, which is severely disappointing. We would have been able to deal with 9, but Double White Fang just puts them way out of our reach. But we still go all in on this. Since we drew the Albert, we've got Excelia. All we would need is a pretty decent 2-drop to fill out this Celia curve, and we could have a chance at this. Not so lucky though. They're going to get even more healing, so all we can do now is apply as much pressure as possible and hope that we can reach our victory conditions. This was definitely a tough match, and one that a deck like this doesn't usually handle well. A lot of the time I would probably have conceded a lot earlier, but considering we were so far ahead to start with, I really wanted to at least play this out and see where it was going to go. So this is where things get a little interesting. So I'm almost sure they could have dealt with me quite well here. We had a fairly decent hand. I mean, we got the 3 damage to face, we set up a ward, which was the plan. I wanted to play those out pretty well. That did mean they couldn't quite kill us that turn. So they went face. And with a quick Evo, or well, Albert, sorry, on turn 9, with his effect, it gave us just the amount of reach we needed to finish this game out. Even though we probably could have done it with Celia, it was definitely a nice play, and I was really glad we found that. So I was really happy with that last match. It was extremely close. I was really worried that healing was going to undo everything that I'd worked towards with the face damage, but it worked in our favour, and we ended up being able to close the game with a nice Albert. So really couldn't be happier facing that Haven deck. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. If you want to check this deck out, the deck list will be in the description below. You can hit the like button and subscribe for more content, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.